live with Tao. Bring your inner quality to anything that you do. Do not think that if you change the job, you will love it or you will be happy. Instead, bring your inner quality to anything that you do. What is your inner quality? The quality of harmony, the quality of oneness, the quality of enjoying. Whatsoever you do, you love it. In the beginning, it may be a sensation, something new, but sooner or later you will settle down and it will be the same. Change yourself, love yourself, respect yourself, and love whatsoever you do, irrespective of what is your profession or what you like to do the most. Howsoever small it may be, but that doesn't make any difference. I am reminded of an anecdote. It happened when Abraham Lincoln became the President of America, and on the first day when he was inaugurating the Senate, someone who was very jealous of Abraham Lincoln's power, his prestige, his success, stood and said, Abraham Lincoln, don't forget that your father was a shoemaker. It was absolutely irrelevant and absurd. The man who said this added, your father was a shoemaker and he used to make shoes for my family. Don't forget him. It was just to insult Abraham, and the whole Senate laughed because everyone was jealous of Abraham Lincoln. Deep down, everybody was feeling, this chair belongs to me, and this man has captured this chair. Of course, whenever someone succeeds, he succeeds in a cunning way. Only you succeed rightly. This is what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks that this man or everybody else have succeeded or became rich or something through wrong means. Only he is right. This is how we adjust to the success of others. It was cunning. By some wrong techniques, somehow he has reached. This is how we can tolerate the success of anyone and console ourselves. So the whole Senate laughed. But Abraham Lincoln said something which is beautiful, and not only beautiful, but reflects his inner quality. He said, it is so good of you to remind me of my father. I know he was a shoemaker, but I have never seen such a shoemaker. He was unique. He was a creator. Because he loved shoemaking, and I cannot think myself as successful as he was, because I do not love this presidency as much as he loved shoemaking. He enjoyed shoemaking. He was blissful. I will never be as blissful in this presidency as he was as a simple shoemaker. But why have you remembered him at this moment? I know, said Abraham Lincoln, that my father was making shoes for your family, but they never complained. So I hope the shoes were all right. but you remember him in this moment without any relevance. I feel some shoes still pinching, and I am his son. I can repair it. If you love yourself, if you love your work, you live in a different milieu. And this is what I am focusing and teaching you. You remember, realize that what was a boredom, difficult for you to continue, is becoming your joy. If you love yourself, if you have experienced love deep within, if harmony has blossomed, the flower of your being has blossomed, then you will love whatsoever you do. You live in a different milieu. You, in that enjoyment, all frustration and tiredness vanishes. In that milieu, nothing is repeated. Repetition appears only to the bored mind. Don't say that you are bored because of the repetitive acts. Acts appear repetitive because you are bored. Then whatsoever you do will appear repetitive. But look at the life. Life enjoys repetition. Seasons move in a circle. The sun moves in a circle every day. Every morning it rises. And the summer comes, winter. Summer comes followed by rainy season. Autumn, winter, spring. This never changes. In a deep way, whole existence is repetitively moving. It seems creation is just like a child's play. That's why Hindus say, the Sanatan Sanskriti say, this is nothing else but a child's play. The trees are not bored. The sky is not bored. The sky never says, now again the clouds have started floating. For so many millennia, the sky has been seeing the clouds every rainy season. The clouds of different colors, they come and they start moving, floating in the sky. Look at the life, it is repetitive. The word is not good. The word repetitive is not good. Rather, it will be better to say it goes on playing the same game, the same note over and over again. It enjoys it so much that it wants to repeat it again. And it goes on increasing. It goes on moving towards the climax. Why does man get bored with repetition? Not because repetition is boring, but because you are so bored that everything appears to be boring. You have not experienced any joy or blissfulness deep within. Whatsoever you have experienced in life has been momentary. So a moment of joy comes and then disappears. Once it happened, Sigmund Freud was asking a patient questions, just the preliminary basic questions that he asked before the psychoanalysis could start. He asked, look at the bookcase, and what does it immediately remind you of? Look at the bookcase. And what does this immediately remind you of? The man looked at the books, not really looking at all. He said, "It reminds me of a woman, a beautiful woman." It was good for Sigmund Freud because it was falling under the memory that everything is sexual. So he said, okay. Then he looked at his handkerchief. Then he took out his handkerchief and asked the man to look at this. What does this remind you of immediately? Whatsoever comes to your mind. The man laughingly said, a woman. Freud was overjoyed. Really, that was his theory, that every man is basically concerned with sex. Every man is basically concerned with sex because sex has never been fulfilling for anyone. You don't know the technique. You have not gone into it out of fulfillment. Many think of women, women think of men, and that is all thinking. So he said, look at the door. There was no one at the door. There was no one even moving in the street. He said, look, there is no one. This abscess, what do you feel? What do you immediately remember? The man again said, a beautiful woman. Now even Sigmund Freud was somewhat disturbed whether this man is just deceiving him or not. And he said, it seems too much. Everything makes you remember a woman. The man said, that is not the point. Whether it is a bookcase or a handkerchief or simply an empty door, that is not the point. Really, I never think of anything except of a woman. I never think of anything else, so whatsoever you say is irrelevant. I think only of woman. This is the nature of the human mind. Everything time the man thinks of sex and nothing else. This was the main theory on which the entire psychoanalysis of Sigmund Freud was based. I never think of anything else, so whatsoever you say is irrelevant. I think only of woman. It is not that everything reminds me of them. I am thinking only of woman. It is not a question of any reminding. So this has to be understood first, and then and only then transformation is possible. So really it is not a question that this act makes you bored or that act makes you bored, or repetition or monotony or tedious job makes you bored, or you feel that you are exhausted in this particular job. The real thing is that you are bored whether you do something or not. Even in emptiness you feel bored. When you have nothing to do, still you feel bored. People are fed up, they're tired, bored, so they decide to go on a holiday. So they go on a holiday, and when they come back, they should have been refreshed, more overflowing joy. When they return from the holiday, they are more tired. They need to take a rest. Before going to the holiday, they are fed up with the work. Now they need some kind of a holiday to go on a long holiday to enjoy life. Keep away from the daily routine. And when they return, they are again tired. So, what was the problem? The problem is not what you do, but how you do it, what you bring, the quality that you bring to the act that you are doing. The real thing is that you are bored whether you do anything or not. If you are simply relaxing in a chair, if somebody asks, you will say it is boring. Not doing anything, you will be bored. You will say there is nothing to do, I am bored. Nothing to do, I am bored. You are watching the television, still you are bored. You are watching YouTube, you are interacting on Facebook, still you are bored. The whole week you are bored because of the tedious work. On the weekend you are bored because you have nothing to do. You are bored for having the same routine work. Every morning get up, do the cooking, prepare the meals for the children, go to work, and this. So when you go for holiday, again you are bored. The whole week you are bored because of the tedious work and the same routine, and on the weekend you are bored because there is nothing to do. The whole life you are bored because of doing a repetitive job in a factory, in an office, in a shop. Then when you retire, you are bored because there is nothing to do. It is not a question of anything else. It is not a question of anything else. Something is not creating boredom in you. You are bored. And you go on. So the boredom is your quality. And this is the quality you bring to any act or anything that you do. Anything you touch, boredom comes in. You have heard of King Midas. Whatsoever he touched became gold. You are also a king of Midas. Whatsoever you touch becomes boredom. You have an alchemical touch. You can change everything into boredom. Everything I see. And when you bring the quality of innerness, when you have experienced love within, harmony within, then whatsoever you touch will become loving, joyful. Don't think of changing the jobs. Action. Think of changing the quality of your consciousness. Focus on changing the quality of the consciousness. The consciousness changes when you experience love within. You love yourself, you respect yourself. You have experienced harmony and blissfulness within. Be more loving to your soul. Be more loving to yourself. The first thing to remember is to be more loving to yourself. The moralists have poisoned the whole world. They say don't love yourself. Loving yourself is selfishness. They say love others. But how can you love if you have not loved yourself? The first criteria of love is to love yourself. The flower of love needs to blossom within you. Then its fragrance and beauty will fulfill you. It will create a milieu around you. and then whatsoever you touch will become loving, joyful. And I say to you that this is absolute nonsense. Not only nonsense, but a dangerous nonsense. Unless you love yourself, you cannot love anyone. It is impossible, because a man who is not in love with himself or herself, cannot love anyone else. If you are in love with yourself, if you respect yourself, only then love will overflow like a fragrance. The fragrance and the beauty, the luster of love will overflow and reach anybody. A man who has not loved himself will hate himself, and if you yourself hate yourself, how can you love anybody? You will hate others as well. You can only pretend, and this is what is happening all around us. And when you cannot love yourself, how can you expect others to love you? Everyone is conditioned in his own eyes. Everyone is conditioned in his own eyes. The whole moralistic teaching gives you only one thing: techniques of self-condemnation. How to condemn yourself. How you are bad, a criminal, guilty, a sinner. Christianity says that your being is sinner. It is not a question of what you do. You are born as a sinner. It is not the question of whether you do someone sin or not. No, you are born sinner. You are born out of sin. A man was born in sin. Adam was the first man, committed the sin, and you are descendant of Adam. This sin has been committed. Nothing can be done. Now it cannot be undone, and you are born in sin. That is Adam's sin. I heard these Christian missionaries, they go preaching the message of Christianity from door to door. So he came to a family. The person was outspoken. He was talking and continued to talk, but remember, they have a programmed talk beyond which they cannot talk. They are programmed. Just as you have a program, it can work within its limitations. Anything outside, it has no answer. So the man said, Jesus is the Savior. We are all born in sin. So he continued, we are all born in sin. Jesus is the Savior. So the man said, wait a minute. You may be born in sin, but not me. Jesus may be born out of sin. But when I was born, my father and mother were married. So I was not born in sin. You may be born out of sin. The persons did not have any answer to it because this answer was not programmed. So they have a one way that one track. I have heard about an Indian movie star. He was known for his dialogue delivery. He was very unique in his voice modulation. He never cared for anyone, full of self-confidence, full of self-confidence. So that time the cell phones have now come in. During a session of recording, he was sitting in the lounge. He took his phone, turned it on, make a call, and then switched off the phone and put it down. Then after another 15 minutes, he again took the phone in his hand, switch it on, make a call, and after making the call, he switched off the phone and put it down. Someone who was watching, he said, "Why do you switch off the phone after you make every call?" He had a way of saying, he said, "Johnny, this phone is for my use, not for the use of others. So when I need to use it, I use it. I don't want others to use the phone in calling me or anything." So this is the situation of these people who are spreading the message, the missionaries. There is one track. So they have been programmed in a particular way. But this is how each one of us is. When somebody asks a unique question, they have no answer to it. So he said, every one of us is born in sin and Jesus is the Savior. So this man said, "You may be born out of sin, but when I was born, my father and mother were married, so I was not born out of sin." If you are born out of sin, how can you love yourself? If your very being is guilt, how can you love yourself? And if you cannot love yourself, you cannot love anyone else. Love must happen at home first. You are the home. Only when it overflows, it can reach the others. Loving means you have experienced love within. The flower of love has blossomed within you. Its fragrance and luster is overwhelmed you, and it is overflowing. And when it overflows into your act, into whatsoever you do, whether you paint or make shoes or anything else, or just cleaning the street, whatsoever you do, if you are in deep love, if you are in deep love with yourself, if you have experienced deep love within you, it may be out of your own accord or in the company of someone. When the inner man and inner woman are united, are in harmony with one another, only then you experience love. Love is the fragrance of union between opposite forces. It is the light that manifests when two opposites merge and neutralize one another. It can happen outside, but it does not. It can happen within when the meditation deepens, when that too does not happen so easily. So in the company of someone, you experience that. So the focus should be, then whatsoever you do, if you are in deep love, if you are in deep love with yourself, so through the milieu that is created around you or the presence that is created around you, you learn the art of loving yourself, respecting yourself. Then it flows into everything you do. It flows even when you are not doing anything. it goes on flowing. It becomes your very milieu, very presence, very existence. Then nothing is boring. Nothing is boring. Enough for now.